What happens to your consciousness when you die? Is it the case that our conscious awareness simply ceases to exist? Or is there something more going on? In this video, we're going to explore both of these possibilities through forbidden ancient knowledge and modern science. When we sleep, we can be said to be in an altered state of consciousness. Our brain activity changes, our bodies relax, and we become less aware of our surroundings. Some people even claim to have visited other worlds while sleeping, which would suggest that the human consciousness is capable of doing things that the physical body cannot do. This idea is not new. For centuries, mystics have claimed that the human soul can travel great distances while the body sleeps. These claims have been backed up by modern science, which has shown that the human brain produces electromagnetic fields that can be detected by sensitive instruments. There are two main theories about what happens to your consciousness when you sleep. The first theory is that your consciousness goes into your subconscious mind. This is the idea that when you sleep, your thoughts and feelings are still there, but they're just below the surface of your awareness. The second theory is that your consciousness goes out of your body. This is the idea that when you sleep, your thoughts and feelings leave your body altogether and go out into the world. Both of these ideas have their pros and cons, and ultimately, there is no way to know for sure what happens to your consciousness when you sleep. However, there is one thing that we know for sure. Whatever does happen, it's all part of the mystery of the human experience. Some people say that when they dream, they are actually living in another reality where anything is possible. They may meet new people, visit strange lands, or have incredible adventures. In fact, some people have even claimed to have met their own consciousness while dreaming. Describe it as a being of pure light or energy that exists outside of time and space. In order to understand this phenomenon, it helps to first define what consciousness actually is. Consciousness is often defined as our state of being awake and aware of our surroundings. But it's really much more than that. Consciousness is what allows us to think, feel, and experience the world around us. It's what makes us human. When we're awake, our consciousness is focused on the physical world. We see, hear, smell, taste, and touch things around us, and our brains process this information to help us understand the world. But when we sleep, our consciousness seems to shift. Some people believe that it's during this time that we are able to access other realms of reality, such as the astral plane. The astral plane is a non-physical realm that is said to be full of energy and matter that is not visible to the naked eye, sometimes described as a world of pure consciousness where time and space don't exist. Some people say that when they visit the astral plane in their dreams, they feel a sense of peace and tranquility like nothing they've ever experienced before. So what exactly happens to our consciousness when we sleep? Well, one popular theory is that it leaves our bodies and travels to the astral plane. Proponents of this idea believe that the astral plane is a place where we can learn and grow between lives. Some even believe that it's a place where we can meet with other beings from other dimensions or even other universes. Of course, this is just one theory, and there is no real way to know what happens to our consciousness when we sleep. However, it's a fascinating idea to consider, and it's certainly a popular one. Many people report having experiences that they believe are evidence of the astral plane. For example, some people say they've had out-of-body experiences while sleeping where they were able to see their physical body from above. Others say they've traveled to different realms of reality where they've met with other beings or had incredible adventures. So what does this mean for us? What should we make of these claims? Well, ultimately it's up to each individual to decide what they believe. There is no right or wrong answer, but it is a fascinating topic to explore. So keep an open mind and be curious about the possibilities. You never know what you might discover. Death is a universal process that all living things go through. It's the inevitable end of life. But what happens to our consciousness after we die? That's a question that's been pondered by philosophers and theologians for centuries. There are many different beliefs about what happens to our consciousness after death. But ultimately, there is no one answer that will satisfy everyone. Some people believe that when we die, our consciousness simply ceases to exist. This is the view of those who believe in materialism, the idea that only matter is real and that everything else, including consciousness, is an illusion. If you believe in materialism, then you probably believe that when we die, our brains stop functioning and that's the end of our consciousness. There's no such thing as an afterlife. We simply cease to be. Others believe that when we die, our consciousness continues on to an afterlife. This could take many forms. Some people believe in heaven and hell, while others believe in reincarnation. Still others believe in a kind of limbo, where we wait until we're eventually reincarnated. If you believe in any of these things, then you probably also believe that when we die, our consciousness goes somewhere else. It doesn't just disappear. What does the science say? What actually happens to our consciousness when we die? Unfortunately, there is no scientific consensus. We simply don't know. There are some studies that suggest that consciousness may continue for a brief period of time after the heart stops beating, but there is no solid evidence to say what happens after that. Near-death experiences, or NDEs, are often brought up in discussions of what happens to our consciousness after death. NDEs are the experiences people have when they're close to death or actually die. They often involve feelings of peace, a tunnel of light, and seeing a bright white figure. While NDEs are fascinating, they're not necessarily evidence of an afterlife. Some researchers believe that NDEs are actually a natural response to the body's shutting down, while others believe that they're proof of an afterlife. Ultimately, it's up to each individual to decide what they believe. There's no right or wrong answer, but it is a fascinating topic to explore. It's important to remember that when it comes to topics like death and the afterlife, there is no single truth that will satisfy everyone. What matters most is that you explore these topics with an open mind and a willingness to consider different perspectives. Only then can you hope to gain a true understanding of them. Now let's look at some forbidden knowledge from ancient times. The Egyptians kept careful records of their dead loved ones. They wrote down their name, their date of birth, their occupation, and even their favorite foods. This information was then placed in the tomb with the deceased, so that the spirit could use it to identify itself to the gods. The Egyptians believed that the gods would ask the spirit who it was, and if it gave the correct information, it would be allowed to enter the afterlife. Otherwise, it would be rejected and wander the earth as a ghost. The ancient Greeks believed that the soul consisted of three parts: the mind, the spirit, and the appetite. The mind was the rational part of the soul. It was responsible for making decisions and controlling the other two parts. The spirit was the emotional part of the soul. It was responsible for things like love, hate, courage, and fear. The appetite was the part of the soul that was concerned with basic needs like food and drink. The Greeks believed that when a person died, their soul would go to the underworld. There it would be judged by the gods. If the soul was deemed to be good, it would be allowed to enter the Elysian fields, a kind of heaven for the Greeks. But if the soul was bad, it would be sent to Tartarus, a place of eternal torment. The ancient Romans had a similar belief system to the Greeks. They believed that the soul consisted of three parts: the immortal part, the mortal part, and the ancestral part. The immortal part was the rational part of the soul. It was responsible for things like justice, wisdom, and piety. The mortal part was the part of the soul that was concerned with basic needs like food and drink. The ancestral part was the part of the soul that connected the living to their ancestors. The Romans believed that when a person died, their soul would go to the underworld. There it would be judged by the gods. If the soul was good, it would be allowed to join the ancestors in the Elysian fields. But if the soul was bad, it would be sent to Tartarus. These are just a few examples of the different beliefs that people have held about what happens to our consciousness after death. As you can see, there is no one answer that will satisfy everyone, but that's okay. The truth is that we don't know what happens to our consciousness after death, and that's part of what makes this topic so fascinating. If you're interested in learning more about near-death experiences, check out my other videos. Thanks for watching.